Moi, c'est Jean-Enoch Bruni, pasteur de la première église de Dieu de West Palm Beach, First Haitian Church of God of West Palm Beach. L'aime la caille moi chaque jeudi et chaque vendredi, commencer 8h pour 9h dans la soirée, c'est Connexion Plus, moi branché. Moi, recommandé fortement pour capable brancher tout Connexion Plus avec pasteur Benjamin chaque jeudi et chaque vendredi, sorti 8h pour arriver 9h. Que bon Dieu bénisse.
Moi-même, Césaire, depuis jeudi, vendredi, 8h arrivé, je vais faire l'autre bagaille que garder Connexion Plus. C'est chita pour me garder Pasteur Benjamin. Connexion Plus.
Êtes-vous un propriétaire d'entreprise qui fait partie de notre communauté haïtienne dynamique en Floride et dans les Caraïbes? Si tel est le cas, vous avez probablement remarqué à quel point la vidéo devient importante en matière de marketing, de vente et de capture de souvenirs. En fait, l'utilisation de la vidéo est récemment devenue une attente des clients dans le monde entier. Et que vous le sachiez ou non, vous avez une histoire inspirante mais non contée. Votre point de vue unique sur le travail, la vie et tout le reste. Mais avec tout le monde qui crée du contenu en ligne maintenant, il est presque impossible de se démarquer. C'est pourquoi vous avez besoin de Lens Magic de Cajou TV, des services de production vidéo auxquels vous pouvez faire confiance. Des courts et longs films, des émissions de télévision aux événements en direct, au contenu des médias sociaux, aux occasions spéciales, quels que soient vos besoins vidéo, aucun projet n'est trop grand ou petit. Lens Magic utilise uniquement les dernières technologies et équipements pour ravir nos clients à chaque fois. Notre excellente réputation au sein de la communauté est basée sur d'innombrables projets réussis, réalisés au cours des 20 dernières années dans toute la Floride, Haïti et les Caraïbes. Et en plus, nos forfaits flexibles garantissent aux clients la meilleure qualité à des prix abordables. Alors qu'est-ce que vous attendez? Visitez kajoutv.tv et découvrez comment vous pouvez utiliser la vidéo pour mieux raconter vos histoires.
Non, moi, c'est Nicole Alexis. Moi, sorti New York. Chaque jeudi, chaque vendredi à 8h, 9h, moi branché Connexion Plus. Connexion Plus, c'est moi-même, c'est vous-même, c'est lui-même, c'est nous tous.
Ou même qui c'est ouvrier CEA ou qui aspire à faire ministère dans l'église locale, moi j'ai une bonne nouvelle pour vous. MISED, Mathetes Institute School of Evangelism and Discipleship, a offert une série de diplômes spécialisés dans disciplines tant que leadership l'église, éducation chrétienne, évangélisation, apologétique chrétienne, interpréter la Bible, counseling familial, présentation études bibliques, Ancien et Nouveau Testament, nan souci pour bien équiper ouvrier cap fait ministère ou qui voulait faire ministère l'église à qui on dynamique sans pareil. Dans MISED, nous fait l'école yon l'autre gens et nous croyons tout le monde ka apprendre et tout le monde doit bien apprendre pour faire ministère CEA avancer. N'a invité tout chrétien haïtien tout côté sous la terre. Vin étudier Bible dans bon timamite avec une équipe professeur qui non seulement gagne en maîtrise pour pipiti, mais qui chargé avec expérience dans affaires enseignement. C'est un programme hybride qu'a fait en direct une fois par semaine sur une plateforme tant que Zoom, Team, Google Meet et puis tout chaque étudiant a bien un tableau de bord pour le bambiler et faire devoir quiz avec examen. C'est là tout, il y a bien accès à tout document et ressources pour tout couillot. En plus, document principal chaque grain coup. Kounuyo a fait en créole et en français et très bientôt en anglais pendant 12 grains de mois seulement. Qui pi bel cadeau qu'a offert tout avec ministère bon Dieu que préparer pour servir royaume Christ là avec excellence et avec passion. Pour inscrire au MISED et joindre plus de détails et informations, seulement taper mathetesinstitute.com. Yundilot, MISED, une école pour étudier la Bible avec excellence et passion. Nouvelle session.
Connection, please, family. I'm not Pastor Ben. I'm guessing you guys all saw that by now. Pastor Ben will not be with us today. He is dealing with some, I want to say, off docket matters. We'll say that. But I'm here with you guys today. I'm a familiar face. You guys know me, FLADIMIR, CELUNICE. And today we are here with another familiar face, future judge Lourdes Casanova. She's here with us today. Anytime Miss Casanova is here, it's a good time. And we're always happy to have her. And as you can tell, we are gearing up for a final stretch. Ms. Casanova, you're in a runoff, right?
Yes.
So we'll be talking about that today. But we'll jump right into things. And as far as the Creole translation, we won't have too much of that tonight. My Creole is not the best, so I'll address that right now. Aswa pasteur ben pala, so konen pasteur ben qui toujours fait li toujours translate ba yo pour nous en créole. Moi créole moi pas tellement bon, so m'pa faire ça aswa. So but nous dit nous anyways nous dit nous merci que ou la avec nous aswa. Nous dit nous merci parce que nous connaît ou busy aswa ou gen l'autre bail pour faire but ou fait un gens ou la avec nous aswa. So nous dit merci pour ça. So Miss Casanova, go ahead and reintroduce yourself to our guest, our connection, please, guest.
First of all, Flad, it is a pleasure to be here. I always love speaking with you and connecting with the voters. So I will reintroduce myself. My name is Lourdes Casanova. I'm running for county court judge. I am fortunate enough to have won the primary in August, and I am asking for your vote now in November. The election is November 5th, but as a matter of fact, and we'll talk about it a little bit more, early voting has already started. It started October 21st, this past Monday, and it runs through November 3rd. And you also have the option of voting by mail for those who requested a mail-in ballot. So I'll talk a little more about my experience as we move forward, but just to remind the voters, I'm a former prosecutor. I'm a small business owner of a multi-practice firm. I have litigated in the criminal, civil, and traffic divisions of our county court, and I'm very involved in the community through the Hispanic Bar Association, Special Olympics, and several other programs. Thank you so much for having me.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. We love when you're here. I'm sold, by the way. I'm not going to get into all that, but I'm sold.
Thank you.
And as far as early voting, I'm pretty sure if you go out to vote, during work hours, you can't be penalized for that. And I do believe they're supposed to cover your pay.
Ooh, I don't know the answer to that, but I do know, and thank you for reminding me, just talking a little more about early voting, the lines are, and it's great to see this, the lines are long. People are waiting an hour, hour and a half, but don't let that discourage you.
Yeah.
You can set an appointment, and I just found this out myself on Monday. You can schedule an appointment with the supervisor of elections online. You just go to the Google Palm Beach County Supervisor of Elections, and you can find a place to schedule an appointment. And I have seen that people who schedule an appointment to go vote get in and out. The wait time is very short. And if the voter has done the research on the candidates and on the issues ahead of time, it'll go even quicker because once you're in there, you already know who you're voting for and what you're voting for, and you can get in and get out.
I did the early voting during the primary, and that's what it was with me. For me, I was in and out. Of course, I used my time though, because they give you like an hour to go and vote. So I was in and out, maybe 30 minutes, but I used my hour. But it was a great experience. They make the process real smooth. There's plenty of volunteers out there ready to help you. And they take all the guesswork out of it. You just have to come in there prepared, kind of know who you want to vote for. Like you said, review all the issues, and kind of if you do that, then everything else should be fine. But before we get into the questionings, how are you? You look great. You don't
Thank
look like
you.
you're dealing with a campaign right now. All the pressures and stress of dealing with a campaign is you're not wearing it at all. I just want to make sure
You're very
I tell
kind.
you that. But how are you? How are you doing?
I'm doing great, and actually, to speak to that, it's my faith that keeps me going,
That's awesome.
and my family that keeps me going. So they keep me energized. And of course, I talked about this before, but the wonderful committee members, the friends, but really the two main things, faith and family. And that is why I am still standing after 9 months of campaigning. I'm feeling great. I'm feeling very motivated. We do have a lot of momentum, but of course we want to turn that momentum into votes, which is why I'm asking the audience today to please go out and vote. It's really important. Every single vote counts.
Yeah. And just to speak to that, I know really right now with the final push, we're really speaking to those who are on the fence, those who probably don't even plan on voting. We're speaking to those people as well. And I just want to say that it gives you a voice. You know, that's your opportunity to get out there and make yourself heard. And being that on this platform is predominantly Haitian, as Haitians, we know what's going on in our country back home, and just all the opportunities that we have here. We do need to kind of compare and contrast what we have back home, and we should take full advantage of the opportunities we have here to have our voices heard and just to be a part of the process. So I just wanted to make sure I got that out there.
100%. You couldn't have said it any better. And as my family is from Cuba, we have a similar experience. Of course, every experience is different, but I can relate to what you're saying and the importance of having your voice heard in a country that allows your voice to be heard. It's such a wonderful thing. It's such an honor and a privilege, and we should take advantage of it. And really, it's our duty as American citizens to get out there and vote.
For sure. So since our last interview, how has the campaign evolved? And have you run into any unknowns, any challenges? How has things changed since our last interview?
I think every day is an experience, and every day comes with some sort of surprise, whether it's a last-minute decision that has to be made in terms of marketing or something that the team is going to come out with to the voters, communications. Sometimes voters ask questions that maybe we hadn't thought about, but that we should have thought about. And, we really appreciate, and I want to talk about this some more as well, about how we've been out there, our campaign has been out there educating voters as to the importance of this race. But something that we don't always talk about is how the voters educate us about what's important. What are the values that they care about? So I would say just learning about the issues that the voters care about the most. And as you know, since this is a nonpartisan race, we can't get into policy or anything like that, but just issues that deal with the courtroom, right? Effectiveness, efficiency, a judge's temperament, things like that. I will say that the campaign has evolved, from the very beginning, has continued to evolve in the sense that it keeps gaining momentum. And that is all thanks to my wonderful committee and the organizations that have endorsed my campaign.
So that's awesome. I know during the primary, as far as percentage, you came in at you were first. You came in at 37.4. Was it?
You know it better than I do.
I think it was 37.4, and
that sounds right.
The other two candidates, the second one was 33. That's who you're currently in the runoff with. And the third one, since we're talking 30, I guess he was in the 20s, I believe.
That's correct.
I feel like you've held your ground as far as that, and this interview right now will serve as the final push. We're trying to make sure we stay there, we stay where we're at. And I know we talked about voter interactions. And I know you're limited. You're limited as far as how you can campaign, but how has voter interaction shaped or influenced how you put yourself out there?
Well, at first we started with a lot of discussion as to I say our because even though I'm the candidate, this is a team effort.
Oh, yeah.
So I usually refer to this as we and our. But we did start with the messaging as to my background, experience, qualifications, and that is super important. But as the campaign has come along, based on what the voters want to know, it has become, and it's been a pleasure, it has become more of an educational messaging. So now, knowing that the voters want to know, why is county court important? What is the county court? That has been wonderful to be able to talk to the voters, not just about my background and experience, but about why this election matters. Because a lot of people do tend to maybe not know about the local elections as much because it's not advertised as much. And people may say, why does it matter? Why should we care? And it's great to be able to provide that answer. Something that I've always done outside of my, well, not really outside of my legal career, but yes, as volunteer work, is go to different organizations and do know your rights presentations. So I generally like to go and educate anyway about the court system. And now during the campaign, it has been a wonderful and pleasant surprise to be able to do that as well and educate people about the judicial system and the county court system specifically.
And I think it's very important. Education is key. Education has gotten both of us where we are, and sometimes it can be overlooked. But I think, the old adage, knowledge is power. It holds true. One thing about cliches are they've been around so long because they're true, and I think it's important. It shouldn't be a last minute thing. You should get to know your candidates. You should get to know your current judges who are sitting, and a lot of people sometimes, I want to say, kind of cast it off because they might be thinking, oh, I'm never going to be in front of a judge anyways. I'm never going to be in the court anyways. But you never know when you'll be in front of a judge or what you'll have to be there for. Right. It could be a family member who's in front of a judge. So
it could be a traffic ticket.
Traffic ticket.
It could be as simple as a traffic ticket. It could be a small claims civil issue between a small business owner and someone who hired that business owner to do any kind of work. It could be a small contract between two people, and not just a business and a person. Yeah. So, and that is why the county court is known as the people's court. Yeah. A lot of people come through with everyday matters, and they depend on the court for justice, to make decisions that uphold justice.
So that's why it is important to get familiar with your candidates. And you don't want it to be the first time you're at least getting to know this person or getting an understanding of who this person is. And I think something else that's very important is to personalize these things. Judges are people, and I think when they're up there and, they have their robes on and they're making these rulings and they're officiating in the courtroom, obviously you say your honor, you stand up when they walk in the room, you stand up when they leave the room. It's important to put that respect on their name. But they're people, they're people, and I think it's important to get to know who they are as a person. Now, with that being said, what are some lessons that you've learned? What are the most important lessons that you've learned through this campaign process? Particularly since our previous conversation, is there anything new that you've learned on this campaign trail?
Really, I spoke to it before, but the educational component, the fact that people do care, the fact that I think this year people are more involved in the process than I have ever seen it, which is wonderful. I think there's increased voter engagement. I think there's an increased level of research and asking the right questions. I know that I've been out there at the early voting sites, and a lot of times voters just go in and out. You know, that's what I do. I go in and out. But I'm noticing voters are stopping to talk to the candidates or talk to whoever is there on behalf of someone's campaign. And they are asking questions, and they do say, let me see the flyer. Let me hear about your background and experience, and why is this important? So I think that's the greatest lesson I've learned. I've also learned about myself that, because I'm a hard worker, and I have a lot of stamina, right? You have to run a campaign. And like I said, my faith in my family keeps me going, but I have learned that I have more than I even thought, which you need that level of energy, because the real work starts on the bench. The real work starts when you take that seat, because you are serving the people, and you got to get it right. You got to make those decisions that are correct under the law.
So I do want to take a closer look at judicial philosophy. Can you share more about how you plan to maintain the judicial temperament in difficult cases? And how do you stay grounded when emotions run high in the courtroom?
Well, as you said, judges are people too. So there may be situations where a judge feels stressed out because of the long day that it's been, because maybe something's happening. You know, sometimes technology falls through in the courtroom, and maybe you're trying to do Zoom hearings and it's not working. So things can happen that can cause frustrations. I would say, number one, I was raised right to maintain the correct temperament and to treat everyone with respect, regardless of the frustrations that are going on. You don't take that out on people. That's number one. And then number two, in addition to how I was raised, I have been running a business for almost 9 years now. And my entire success as a business owner depends on how I treat people. Right? It's, you know, it's great if you're doing a wonderful job on their case, and that you know the law, and you're great in court, you're great in trial. But if you're not treating that person correctly, and if you're not giving them the attention that they deserve and that their case deserves, that person is not going to be pleased. Right? It's how you treat someone at the end of the day that's what people care about the most. That's what I've noticed. And as a business owner, I've had a lot of success because of how I treat people. And I do interact with people from all walks of life, and in very stressful situations. People come to me for criminal cases. People come to me for immigration cases. People come to me when they've been sued, and when there's a debt collector after them. These are very stressful situations, and you have to just be able to put that person at ease and understand that maybe if that person, for example, is saying something that might have made you a little stressed out or upset, it's not really coming from the person, it's coming from the situation. And so you just have to remove yourself from that, and remember your role, remember how you were raised, and just remember that you have to treat everybody with respect.
And that's everything that you've said. It checks all those boxes. I've been in the courtroom. I haven't been in the courtroom very long, but the short time that I've been in the courtroom, I've seen situations where a judge might want to show that emotion, and they do. You know, like I said, they're human, and it just has to be within reason. From what I've seen, it's always been within reason, where that judge might want to take it to a level 10, but they're like, I'm going to keep it at a 6, because at all times they have to be the adult in the room, for lack of better words.
And that was so perfect what you said, because the judge sets the example of how you want everyone else to conduct themselves in the courtroom. So one of the questions I get a lot is, how are you going to maintain courtroom decorum, courtroom control? I don't like the word control, right? But courtroom decorum is a better way to say it. And I always start by saying, you act how you want other people to act. You are the leader. So what your demeanor is showing is what you can expect from others. You're sending a message as to what you can expect. So it starts with the judge.
And I've seen instances where judges they'll kick everyone out of the courtroom if it gets too loud and they're trying to get through a plea. I've seen where judges just have the deputy just shush everyone. I've seen it all, and you can see the personality of the judge just by how it feels in that courtroom. Some courtrooms you can cut the tension with a knife, and other courtrooms, it's calming, it's relaxing, and you can get some things done. So that really speaks to the power that a judge has on their courtroom.
Setting the tone.
For sure. How do you balance compassion with the need to uphold the law in cases that may involve sensitive personal or societal issues?
I don't think those two things should be in conflict, following the law and being compassionate. I think you can be a judge who upholds the rule of law.
Yeah.
And the rule of law to me means the law as written. You can have that, and you can also be a compassionate judge, because it's how you treat people in the courtroom. You may not always rule in favor of someone, obviously, right? Because we're in an adversarial system. So when you rule in favor of someone, you're ruling not in favor of someone else, right? So someone may not receive the result that they were looking for, but they can also know that they were treated fairly, and that they were respected, and that they were heard, and that they had access to courts, they had due process, they had their day in court. And then in terms of compassion, when it comes to sentencing, I would say obviously judges are bound by the law, and that is number one. Judges do have discretion, but I do think that there are factors that judges should look at. For example, in a criminal case, you look at a defendant's, if you're sentencing, right? Defendant's criminal history, the nature of the offense. You look at whether or not, or not whether or not, but the impact on the victim, if there is a victim in the case. So you look at all of these factors. You can also look at mental health. Punishment is the primary goal under Florida law for criminal cases, but there are situations where you can put into place rehabilitative measures. Obviously, I can't talk about how I would rule on a particular case, but I would say compassion comes from treating everybody with respect. That's number one. And then I don't like to call it compassion when you're talking about sentencing, because compassion, like I said, is always there when you treat somebody with respect. But I think that within the law, you can look at the different factors that you're allowed to look at to come to the right decision.
And I've seen during sentencing where obviously I'm in county court, so sentencing is not, it's not as dramatized as it would be like in a felony case, because we're talking about a couple days to a year to 3 years and more. So we're talking about something else. But I can see judges combing through different factors. They speak to the defendant's family. They speak to, and they learn about different responsibilities that the defendant has to take care of. And they also listen to, the upbringing, difficulties that or challenges that the defendant has faced. And they also, if there's a victim in the case, they can hear the victim. So it's a balancing act. And there are guidelines set in place. Felony, there's obvious guidelines.
Statutory guidelines in felony court.
In civil court, you have the penal code that tells you punishment that's the number one thing that we're looking. So they have that guideline. But I've seen them. I study judges all the time because at some point that's where I'll be. So I watch them in that balancing text, and it's difficult. What will you lean on? What will anchor you when you're having to make those tough decisions? When you're placed in that situation where you're applying, or you're in that balancing test situation?
The law will always anchor me because, and we've talked about this the last couple of times, but to remind our viewers, my family comes from a country that did not respect the judicial branch. And what I learned at a very early age is when you don't respect the rule of law, you have chaos. You have a crumbling society. So we really have to respect the law. And for me, that is what grounds me in my decisions.
Yeah.
Talking about how do you not, when you said earlier, how do you not let your emotions get in the way? And that's why when we were talking about compassion, it's such a tricky thing to talk about because the compassion is always there, but it does not mean that that compassion translates to a particular sentence. The compassion comes from giving that person what they are entitled to under the law, due process, access to courts, treating that person with respect, with a proper temperament, right? Regardless of what they are charged with, right? You treat everybody with respect. When it comes to sentencing, you have to rely on the law. You can still be compassionate in how you are delivering the news. And like I said, it doesn't mean that everything's going to be the max, everything's going to be the minimum. Judicial candidates and judges can't talk about how they would rule on a case. I always say it, but I say it multiple times because it's important. But you do look at all the factors. You look at the discretionary factors that you are allowed to look at, and then you look at the statutory factors.
And every judge is different. I've been in front of judges where they don't even want to hear what the prior offer was from the state, whether we're in the whether they're pleading up or they've lost at trial. They don't want to hear it because they don't want that to influence how they're gonna. They obviously would make a recommendation, but they don't want to hear the prior offer, and I think that's all in fairness, just trying to make sure that they're not swayed by anything outside of how they've determined what this case deserves.
Right.
So,
Bias has no place in our judiciary, right? Bias or any preconceived notions. You have to make decisions based on the law, not personal opinions, not political opinions, certainly not, right? And not any preconceived notions about that person or what you thought about the case.
And that's what I love about the role of being a judge. You have to be a neutral party at all times. You got to treat everyone fair. There's no, your bias it's out the window, you know, and I think that's one of the most unique positions in our judicial system, and maybe the toughest, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it is. The judicial branch is unique in that respect, and but I'm drawn to it because of my family's experiences, and it's something that is so important to me that that I don't see any other way to have it. You know, you have to act with honesty, integrity. You have to follow the law. You have to maintain separation of powers. You have to respect the Constitution, and that is something so critical to our democracy. You might think, this is just a small case. This is a misdemeanor. We're in county court. You know, this is just a small claims case. It's not a big deal. It is a big deal at every level. At every level, we have to preserve liberty in the courts by respecting the law.
I was dealing with a case, I guess it's over with, so I could speak on it a little bit. But I was dealing with a case where defense was basically saying this is not a big deal, and I had to calm down just a little bit because it was definitely a big deal. You know, there was a crash involved in this case. There was a victim, and you can't downplay that. So I was a little bit upset, and I had to kind of reel it in. So they're all important, whether it's a no valid or DUI in my case.
Every case is important.
What are some local issues in Palm Beach County that you believe county court needs to focus on?
Well, again, I can only answer from a perspective that doesn't come from policy as a judicial candidate. But I would say access is an issue. A lot of people can't make it to court because they don't have transportation. And I think in that sense, virtual hearings have been wonderful because it allows someone to, even if they don't have a car, even if they don't have transportation, even if they can't afford an Uber, a lot of people do have a phone, right? So they can get on Zoom and they can be present for the hearing and that person can be heard. I do think access becomes more difficult in virtual hearings for people who don't understand technology, and that exists as well. So in that situation, it's very important for the judge to let the litigant know that whether it's a defendant in criminal court or whether we're talking about civil court, someone who's suing or being sued or has a landlord-tenant issue, the judge needs to find out how that person can best receive access, whether it's in person or whether electronically. And that person, the judge needs to notify. I know in civil, for example, the default is that now litigants must be served and must serve to the other party by email. That's the default. But the judge then needs to make sure to let that person know that is the default. So if you do not have an email or if you can't get on a computer, you need to let the court know. You need to let the court know in writing that you're not going to accept service by email.
Okay.
So that type of stuff, it's just communicating with the litigants in front of you to make sure that person does have, that each person has the proper access. That's a big, to me, that's probably one of the biggest issues. I do think we have a wonderful judiciary. I think we do a great job. Can we always improve? Absolutely. There's always room for improvement. Efficiency. Again, we have a wonderful judiciary here in Palm Beach County, and I can only hope to continue that tradition. But we can always improve with efficiency. And again, maybe virtual hearings in a situation might be quicker, and people don't have to miss that much work or not really miss work at all. I think having the experience, in my case, being a former prosecutor, a business owner who is used to handling a lot of things quickly, but not at the expense of accuracy, right? I think having the proper experience helps when it comes to efficiency. I think allowing the parties, when talking about temperament and courtroom decorum, giving the parties a little bit of time and not maybe pressuring them, giving them time to talk goes a long way, because you think that might slow things down, but really, if they've had time to talk, that case might resolve, right, that day. So that could increase efficiency as well. And then a third issue, again, I do believe we have a judiciary that serves the people here in Palm Beach County and serves them well, but we can always improve when it comes to diversity. I think I mentioned this before, but Hispanics comprise anywhere from 23 to 24% of the population in Palm Beach County, and our judiciary does not reflect that right now. And so we can always improve when it comes to diversity on the bench, not because the judge is going to rule in a different way because the judge is Hispanic or the judge is black, but it's because when the litigants come before you, there is a level of trust and comfort and understanding when they see that someone on the bench looks like them, perhaps shares a similar or the same language, shares a similar culture. I think that's important.
I think it is very important, especially just being there and seeing certain things happen in the courtroom where, for instance, I'm Haitian, so if we have a case where you have two Haitian victim, Haitian defendant, I can understand it a little better than someone else would, because a lot of times it's a cultural thing, it's a cultural difference. I think it is important to have someone up there with that cultural diversity that can come in and say, well, I see what this person was saying here. It might look like this, optics say this, but I can kind of see through it and see what was going on here.
Right.
Yeah. So I think it can turn something major to something minor and vice versa.
Right. Life experience and diversity are important in that mutual trust and understanding between judge and litigant, and really all the parties in the system.
And speaking on diversity, that kind of segues into my next question. How do you plan to ensure that that the diversity in communities of Palm Beach County, that they feel represented and heard in your courtroom?
Well, number one is treating everyone, and I go back to this over and over again, but it's number one, treating everybody the way that they deserve to be treated, right? Treating everybody with respect. Being transparent in decision making, because that way the person knows why is this decision being made, right? Being honest, acting with integrity, following the law, that's super important. My election to the bench would add to diversity by being the first Hispanic woman elected by the voters to the bench in Palm Beach County. And again, I think that would put our large Hispanic population at ease. But this is not just about Hispanics. This is about everyone. And being a diverse candidate and having those experiences as the daughter of immigrants, right? Having grown up, so it's not just about being Hispanic, it's being the daughter of immigrants. Having grown up in a low-income household, right? Just all of these, having grown up in Palm Beach County, this is my county. All of those experiences adds to diversity, and then you talk about also diversity of experience. So diversity means a lot of things, but the full package is what will allow me to serve the people of Palm Beach County in the best possible way. Because of my experiences being the daughter of immigrants and growing up in a bilingual household. I'm trilingual now, but I grew up in a bilingual household, and just growing up, like I said, with limited means, I think that brings a level of compassion and a level of understanding.
For sure.
And just having come from a diverse background, I know that sometimes I've been treated differently or in a way that really wasn't positive because of my background. And so, of course, I'm very committed to ensuring that doesn't happen on the bench. Like you said, understanding the nuances, perhaps, of different cultures, that helps as well. I think, once again, having people come in and seeing a judge who reflects the community, that goes a long way. So all of those factors together.
So, so far this has been an awesome conversation. It always is. It's never a dull moment when you're on the show. But we do have to take a quick pause, and we'll be back with all our viewers. So we hope you come back with us.
Moi, c'est Jean-Enoch Bruni, pasteur de la première église de Dieu de West Palm Beach, First Haitian Church of God of West Palm Beach. Lem la kay moi chaque jeudi et chaque vendredi, commence 8h pour 9h dans la soirée, c'est Connexion Plus moi branché. Moi recommander fortement pour capable brancher tout Connexion Plus avec pasteur Benjamin chaque jeudi et chaque vendredi, sorti 8h pour arriver 9h. Que bon Dieu bénisse.
Moi-même 16h, depuis jeudi, vendredi 8h arrivé, je vais faire l'autre bagaille que garder Connexion Plus. C'est chita pour me garder pasteur Benjamin. Connexion Plus.
Êtes-vous un propriétaire d'entreprise qui fait partie de notre communauté haïtienne dynamique en Floride et dans les Caraïbes? Si tel est le cas, vous avez probablement remarqué à quel point la vidéo devient importante en matière de marketing, de vente et de capture de souvenirs. En fait, l'utilisation de la vidéo est récemment devenue une attente des clients dans le monde entier. Et que vous le sachiez ou non, vous avez une histoire inspirante mais non contée. Votre point de vue unique sur le travail, la vie et tout le reste. Mais avec tout le monde qui crée du contenu en ligne maintenant, il est presque impossible de se démarquer. C'est pourquoi vous avez besoin de Lens Magic de Cajou TV, des services de production vidéo auxquels vous pouvez faire confiance. Des courts et longs films, des émissions de télévision aux événements en direct, au contenu des médias sociaux, aux occasions spéciales, quels que soient vos besoins vidéo, aucun projet n'est trop grand ou petit. Lens Magic utilise uniquement les dernières technologies et équipements pour ravir nos clients à chaque fois. Notre excellente réputation au sein de la communauté est basée sur d'innombrables projets réussis, réalisés au cours des 20 dernières années dans toute la Floride, Haïti et les Caraïbes. Et en plus, nos forfaits flexibles garantissent aux clients la meilleure qualité à des prix abordables. Alors qu'est-ce que vous attendez? Visitez kajoutv.tv et découvrez comment vous pouvez utiliser la vidéo pour mieux raconter vos histoires.
Non, moi, c'est Nicole Alexis. Moi, sorti New York. Chaque jeudi, chaque vendredi à 8h, 9h, moi branché Connexion Plus. Connexion Plus, c'est moi-même, c'est vous-même, c'est lui-même, c'est nous tous.
Good evening, Connection Please family. Welcome back. We're glad that you stayed with us. Once again, we are interviewing the wonderful Lourdes Casanova. She is running for county court judge. So pretty soon we'll be calling her Judge Casanova. You might want to get the jump on that. That's what we'll be calling you. We'll be calling you Judge Casanova. And just to jump back into the interview, since we last spoke, have you noticed any changes in the concerns or priorities of the county's residents?
I don't know that I've noticed any changes. I think I've learned about the concerns of the residents. And being a resident of Palm Beach County as almost my whole life, I've been here since I was 3, I have been in tune to many of those concerns. But just from the perspective of a candidate, and I know that we talked about this before a lot, but going back to that aspect of who are you? Why does a county court seat matter? Sometimes people ask what types of cases are in the county court. And as soon as I talk about that, then they're interested, because landlord-tenant law, evictions, right? It's not just the contracts. Sometimes people say contracts matter too, right? But money matters.
Yes, they do.
But landlord-tenant, eviction, misdemeanors, traffic. A lot of people, even I do traffic tickets now as a defense lawyer. That's one of the things that I do. And you would be surprised. A lot of times the clients with traffic tickets care more than clients in other areas of law. So I think once the public knows, or once the voters know what are the issues that are being decided in county court, then they care more. And then the follow-up questions are, well, are you someone who's going to follow the law, right? Are you someone who is going to respect due process? Are you someone who is going to be efficient? Because a lot of people, like my clients are, many of my clients are contract workers. So if they're not at work, they're not getting paid. So that matters. It doesn't just matter to lawyers who are, they're trying to get back to, they're either trying to go to another courtroom, they're trying to get back to the office, or they're trying to go back to their house if they're working from home. It's not really just something that the lawyers care about. The people care about it. They want efficiency in the courts, because efficiency could mean them getting their paycheck, or if you're not efficient, it means they're not getting paid that day.
So yeah, we definitely don't want those things dragging along. We want to make sure we cut to the chase. But
also, there's one thing I haven't mentioned, is also the stress of having a case hanging over your head for so long, right? You want it, and in most situations, people want it to come to a solution, to a resolution, and so they can move on with their lives. So that's the whole point of the courts, is so the parties can be heard and a decision is made under the law, and then people move on with their lives.
yeah, there's a case now that's from 2010, and with that case, obviously we wanted to resolve, but there's certain things you're not willing to compromise on to get a resolution for it. But I can see where you have a case that's that old, and it's like, let's just move on,
There's a balance, and on the judicial side, there's a balance between efficiency, accuracy, fairness. I mean, you always want to be accurate, right? You want to make the right decision, but you want to be efficient, because sometimes justice delayed is justice denied. So you want to, there is a delicate balance on how to make sure that you are ensuring all of those things.
Now, I do want to talk about the runoff. Explain what that is, because even I'm a little confused about this whole runoff thing. So explain it to our viewers.
I'm glad that you asked, because I did win the primary, and a lot of people thought, it's over, the race is over. It's over. It was over in August.
We're good.
It was an honor to win the primary. It really was.
Yeah.
But what happens is, in certain types of races, such as judicial races, you need 50% of the vote plus one. One more than 50%. And
Gotcha.
so what happens typically when you have, which was the case here, a three-way race, or sometimes it's more than three candidates. In this case, it was three. It's, you know, it's very hard to get 50% plus one, especially when there's such a low voter turnout in the primary. So that's one of those things. I urge the public in the future to come out and vote in the primary. These local elections matter. And the other thing, too, is talking about voter education. The NPAs, no party affiliations, most of them believe, and I could understand this, they believe they cannot vote in the primary. But yes, they can for nonpartisan races. So those are some of the factors that go towards the low voter turnout in August. But in any event, I won the primary. There was no candidate who had 50% plus one. And so what happens in that situation is that the top two vote getters go to a runoff in the general election in November.
Okay, so now I get it. Thank you. Thank you. Now I'm educated on it.
I'm here for you.
I honestly had no clue. It's like, what are we talking about?
But can I tell you, talking about the things that I've learned,
Yeah.
I've learned a lot of this myself now. Because you really don't know if you're not the candidate, right? These are not topics that are discussed. They should be, but these are not topics that are discussed very often. So I will admit I've learned a lot of these things now as a candidate, and I'm so happy to share it with the public.
Even the last interview when we were talking about the runoff, I was like, runoff? What are we doing? What are we doing? Like, she won. What are we doing? But thank you for educating me on that. And now, talking about the runoff and being in the runoff phase, how has that shaped your dynamic between your opponent, and have the conversations around this race, has it shifted after your initial campaign?
Well, I would say that one of the things that I'm proud of, and one of the things that should be expected of a judicial race, is that judicial candidates hold themselves to a higher standard. You have to, because the way that you conduct yourself as a judicial candidate is a barometer for how you will conduct yourself on the bench. You also, if you end up on the bench, you don't want to have already started with some sort of reputation for lack of integrity or for lack of temperament, right? Or for poor temperament, I should say, and poor demeanor, or for dishonesty. So judicial candidates are expected, I would hope all candidates are expected to be honest and conduct themselves with the right temperament and integrity, but more so as a judicial candidate because of the not that the other positions aren't important, but because of the importance of neutrality on the bench, because of the importance of treating everybody with respect. It's just such a unique position as a judicial candidate. But I'm proud of how our campaign has conducted itself, and we continue to run a clean campaign, and our intention is to continue that all the way through November 5th. I'm really proud of that.
And I just love to see that there's no mudslinging, there's no jabs or pokes, because even at home, I'm enjoying a football game. Then you get a campaign ad, and you're like, what are we talking about? Like, why do you have to be so nasty? You know, and it's, I for one, I don't think there's any place for it, no matter what kind of campaign is being ran. I think you stick to your policies, let people know what you plan on doing, the changes you plan on making, or if it ain't broke, don't fix it, what you plan on maintaining. And you can do that, and you can run a clean race. You don't have to do the whole mudslinging thing. And to me, it's very distasteful when I see ads like that, or when I see vicious comments about an opponent. So
yeah, and we are bound by the judicial canons. So those are the rules that govern how a judicial candidate and a judge should conduct himself or herself. But in addition to that, we shouldn't strive for the bare minimum, right? If you are seeking such a position of honor and integrity, and you want to maintain the public's trust in the judiciary, which is super important to maintain that trust, you have to conduct yourself the right way. And it starts with, well, I was going to say it starts with the campaign, but it starts even before that. It starts how you have conducted yourself professionally and personally before the campaign, with your coworkers, right? With your own family and friends.
yeah,
It really starts at birth, right? Because your reputation builds, and you have to always conduct yourself with integrity. But absolutely, I mean, if nothing else, the campaign, now that you're in the limelight and you are expected to uphold the integrity of the courts, you as a judicial candidate need to make sure the public sees that you're running a clean campaign.
yes, I think it's very important. Right now, for certain voters who I would say are on the fence, what are some key differences, some key deciding factors that sets you apart from your opponent?
I'm glad that you asked that question. I'm the only candidate who has served as a prosecutor for Palm Beach County. And as a prosecutor, as you know, you manage a large caseload, which is something that you need to do as a judge. You have a very large caseload, and you need to run it efficiently and effectively. Also, as a prosecutor, you conduct jury trials. You are in the county court daily. And something that I had not talked about before in terms of, and maybe I did talk about it, but not in too much detail, the prosecutor has a very unique role. Maybe we did talk about this the last time. Now that I'm remembering, the prosecutor's job is not just to prosecute.
Yeah,
it's to do justice. Now I remember we did talk about this before.
But it's important. It's
important to reiterate. So the prosecutor, the defense attorney, their ethical obligation is to zealously represent the client, zealously defend the client. As a prosecutor, it's not the exact opposite, where you prosecute. No, you need to review the case from an objective and independent perspective, from the perspective of justice, which is similar to what a judge has to do. And then the other aspect is that judges have to do is review warrants for sufficiency under the Fourth Amendment. And I know that during duty week, you have to do that as a prosecutor. You have to review warrants. Not yet?
Not yet.
No, it's coming.
I know.
But judges have to do that as well, right? So typically what happens is law enforcement sends the prosecutor the draft warrant. The prosecutor reviews it and maybe provides some, I don't want to say advice, but some feedback to law enforcement as to whether or not there is enough probable cause and whether or not the warrant is correctly written. And then ultimately that warrant goes in front of the judge, and the judge has to review the warrant for sufficiency and determine whether the judge is going to sign off on that warrant. So I think those are all really unique roles that you can only, or the only unique roles that you can only serve as a prosecutor. I also am the only candidate who has run a small business and a nonprofit organization at the same time. I was the president of the Hispanic Bar Association, and I am running my law firm. Last year I was doing both, and having to lead a profit and a nonprofit at the same time requires significant executive leadership skills, decision making, multitasking, being able to navigate new issues. And those are really important skills that you need to run an efficient and effective courtroom.
As far as looking at all your experience and everything that you've done leading up to this point, it's clear that you are the clear choice, especially in my book. I think you're ready, you're willing, and I think this is just this is a step for you that you've been building up towards, and you're ready for it.
You're very
in my
kind.
opinion.
And talking about the experience as a prosecutor, most of my trials were as a prosecutor, because you just have trials every week, right? Or almost every week. So I am the candidate with the most trial experience. And that's important because as a judge, you have to preside over trials.
And you just having that experience, you've been through every phase of it, from compiling discovery to from voir dire, to sentencing. So it's important to have been on that side of it and to see what all goes into it, see different rulings from judges, rationale on rulings. All of that is important, seeing it from that perspective. So that's another factor that makes you the most qualified for the position.
Courtroom experience matters because judges will be in the courtroom. That is the role.
So I do want to talk about your long-term vision. After sitting on the bench for 5 to 10 years, where do you see yourself long-term? What are some of the accomplishments that you want to be attached to your name, to your legacy?
Well, first of all, I can see myself as a county court judge for the rest of my career.
That's awesome.
If the public will allow it, right? If the people will put me there and continue to put me there, because judges are accountable to the people. So ultimately, I hope that I can earn that position. In terms of my legacy, county court is the people's court. And I really, truly want to be seen as the judge of the people's court, meaning the compassion, the respect for the litigants, the respect for the rule of law, conducting myself with integrity, with honesty, with transparency. I want to leave that legacy because I want to continue building on the wonderful judiciary that we have in Palm Beach County. We have a wonderful judiciary, and we're lucky to be here. It's not necessarily the same in other places. And then the other part of it is, if I am elected, we talked about this before, I would be the first Hispanic woman elected by the voters to the bench. And I would love to inspire not just Hispanics, but other minorities to go for that goal, to go for these positions of leadership. If it's that they're inspired to become a judge, I want to be able to provide mentorship and inspiration for that. If it's for another position of leadership, I hope that, even though it's not the same position, I hope that having them watched me run a clean campaign, having hopefully succeeded, and having hopefully the chance to talk to people about my experience and the fact that it wasn't overnight, right? There was a lot of work that was put into this, but being able to show that if you are consistent and you work hard, that you do have the ability to achieve the American dream in this country. That I actually got goosebumps when I said that. But that's really the legacy I want to leave, that inspiration that you can achieve the American dream. And we are a diverse community, and we should reflect that in positions of leadership. And I just want to inspire other minorities to go for it.
And I just hearing you say that, it means a lot. We do need to, in position of power, we need to reflect the people that we're serving, and you'll do that. Voters, you have the opportunity to make that happen. And now that we're wrapping up, I want you to give your final message, your final push to those who have followed your journey throughout this election cycle, those who've helped you, encouraged you. Just final message to those folks who are on the fence. Just your final push.
Well, first and foremost, I am so grateful to you, Vlad, and for the pastor, and I'm so grateful for for KONEKSYON Plus, and the listeners, the viewers, for giving me this opportunity to share my vision for the county court bench and my background and experience. I am extremely grateful as well, like I said, for my family. I couldn't have done this campaign without them. They are with me 100% all of the time. As a matter of fact, my parents have been out there this entire week holding up signs at the voting locations. I'm grateful for the 300 committee members that I have who are also holding the signs and who are spreading the word. I am so grateful as well for the organizations who have endorsed me: police, fire, Sun Sentinel, National Organization for Women, Palm Beach County Human Rights Council. So I wanted to start with a message of gratitude. I do ask for your vote. It is so important. Every vote counts. It is so important for you to have your voice heard and put someone on the bench with the right and the relevant and the breadth of experience that the residents of Palm Beach County deserve. And I know that I am that candidate because of my time as a prosecutor, because of my time as a small business owner, because my entire career has been focused on the county court. I have litigated in the criminal, civil, and traffic divisions of our county court system. And where I'm asking to serve is the very place where I have been serving for so many years. And in addition to serving in the courtroom, I serve outside the courtroom. I serve for Special Olympics, Palm Beach County Hispanic Bar Association, Latinos in Action, Florida Association for Women Lawyers, Palm Beach County Bar. So many organizations that are near and dear to my heart. And I have a heart of service. I have a commitment to the rule of law because of my family background. And I have a focus and expertise on the county court system, in the county court system. And for all of those reasons, I ask to earn your vote. You can vote November 5th, of course, Election Day. But if you want to avoid the possibility of a really long line, I would schedule an appointment on the Supervisor of Elections website. Go ahead and schedule an appointment right now during early voting. It goes through November 3rd. Once again, my name is Lourdes Casanova, candidate for County Court Judge. Thank you so much for your time.
Anytime. Well, thank you for coming.
Such a pleasure.
And KONEKSYON Please family, we're in the final push. We have one of our own. We're going to make this thing happen. We're going to be able to call her Judge Casanova on November 5th. So we need your help. We need you to get out there. We need you to do your part so we can make sure that the right person is sitting on that bench. So KONEKSYON Please family, good night. Thank you for being with us. Be blessed.